I'm going to tell you why John Jones' victory over Dominic Reyes last night was a lot more important and bigger than most fans think. Also, who are the top 2 players coming out of college in the 2020 NBA draft? Chris and I will be talking about that. And who is the next Tom Brady? Or is there a shift from drop back quarterbacks that are usually in the pocket to dual threat quarterbacks? Chris and I will get into that. Let's start the show.
You're tuned in to the hottest sports analysis of the week with your hosts Ron Dolbeck and Chris Roberts. And now, here's the first round.
It's a great Sunday night here in the first round. St. Jude Studios, you have found us. It's the show that helps you be smarter than your friends when it comes to sports. And Chris, as every week, you join me here on my left talking about everything going on in the world of sports. I have absolutely been killing it with my online gambling account.
Really? You've been killing it.
I have been killing it. I'm telling you, Shevchenko last night
right
at UFC and John Jones made me a bunch of money. And I found a little algorithm when it comes to my betting. What I'm doing is I'm taking big home favorites in college football and betting in college basketball, and I'm betting the money line on them.
Oh, you really?
Yeah, I killed it this week. I was hitting literally money line bets. I was hitting like 90% this week. I'm up big time.
Wow, you can't be telling everybody your secrets, man.
I am telling people my secrets. You know, it feels like we haven't been here forever, but we just took Wednesday off for a couple different reasons. But it feels like we haven't been here for like a month.
Yeah, man. It feels like about 2 or 3 weeks, man. It's just, we miss you guys, man.
Yeah, that's true. We miss you. We miss all of our new subs that are out there, our new subscribers. We appreciate you. And everything that is going on in the world of sports. There's so much going on. UFC was awesome last night. Yes. We had a great Duke versus North Carolina game that I didn't think was going to be great. We're going to talk a little bit about San Diego State, and we have a new segment, Who is the Next? And Chris and I are going to be asking each other about up-and-coming athletes, but let's get it started with everything going on in the world of sports. And if we have to start in one place, it's got to be UFC 247. John No Bones Jones gets it done in a semi-controversial effort last night against Dominic Reyes, who came out like a ball of thunder. But in the 4th and 5th round, I thought he faded. Chris and I are going to talk about that. And what does this mean for John Jones' legacy? I think he's got to be one of the top 2 or 3 UFC fighters of all time, and I'm going to tell you why. Last night, Duke goes on the road to North Carolina. Do you realize that North Carolina basketball team is ranked 13th in the ACC? 13th in the ACC, not in the country. How far have the great fallen? We're going to talk about last night. That game went into overtime. It was incredible. And I think there's a new star in the 2020 draft that came out of that game last night. We're going to get into that. How about the Atlantic 10 when it comes to college basketball? Nobody's talking about them. I've got some interesting stats and some teams like VCU and Dayton that no one's talking about that are really standouts, and you might want to start moving them up in your bracket when it comes to your March Madness bracket when you fill it out. Number 4, San Diego State. They're 24-0. Chris and I talked about this a couple weeks ago. Do they really deserve to be a number 1 seed in March Madness? I don't think so. We're going to talk about their schedule. They played Tennessee State, Texas Southern, and some school called San Diego Christian. I mean, I can't discuss it any more than that. Talking about how the mighty have fallen. How about my Florida Gator basketball team this year and Mike White? He's averaging on a 6-year contract, $2.7 million. Do you think he's doing a $2.7 million a year job? They've lost 4 out of their last 6 games. They're heading in the wrong direction at the wrong time of the year where they should be elevating their game, and they haven't even played Kentucky yet. They've got them twice in the next 2.5 weeks. I want to get into that. How about the top 2 players coming out in the NBA draft? You're going to be surprised at one of them because I think he's a lot better than most of the analysts think. I'm going to get into that and tell you why. In our Who's Next segment, Chris and I are going to be talking about who are the next hot people, either in coaching, broadcasting, or positions in sports. Stay tuned. You're going to want to hear about that. And lastly, I've got great news about the Florida Gator football schedule. They're going way out of the box. You're going to want to hear about that. And having said all that, Chris, what's up with you? I don't have my drink. I don't have anything up here.
Right. No libation Sunday, man. What's really going on with you, Ron?
I don't know. I need my Tito's and some Coke or something. I mean, don't we have an intern around here somewhere that could get an alcoholic drink in here?
I need something.
Orange juice, something organic, healthy. I don't know.
Yeah, man. I'm trying to recoup from yesterday, man. Going down to the state fair, man. Jeez.
In Tampa.
And
how was it? This was a daddy and girl day out.
Yes, it was a daddy and girl, daddy daughter day out. Girl dad hashtag.
How much did daddy spend on?
Keep that a secret. but no, it was a great. They had a great time down there. But I think for the people down there, they have to do some type of sensitivity training, man.
Why is that?
Oh my gosh, like some of those people down there running those rides were horrible, man.
Oh, well, you know what you're getting with that.
I mean, geez.
You can't expect, Ritz-Carlton when you go to a state fair.
I mean, geez, they were like, it was like they had like the grumpiest old men running the rides, guy. I was like, ugh.
I know. Some of those, I used to go to the fair out in San Diego, and sometimes you come up and they have those carnival type attractions and rides. And, it's some 45-year-old lady who looks like she's 75.
Yes.
And she's talking to the guy over in the corner who's running the exhibit. And she's like, hey, Charlie, hit Guns N' Roses and grease up the pole. I'm on in 5 minutes.
Exactly. Yep.
Like, you're getting that at a state fair.
Oh my gosh, it was so crazy. You had guys sitting out there smoking cigarettes, directing traffic. Hey, come on this way. Got the cause accidents. You're like, oh my God, dude. Please put the cigarette down, guy.
It'd be so funny if those guys are called barkers.
Right.
To have a bar. It gets so degenerated that you go to the state fair with your kids and the guy in the corner, you're like, hey, where's this ride that we're looking for? The SpaceX ride or Gravitron? He's like, that's down the midway, and it's going to be the third ride on your left. And he's over there smoking. You remember Ted, the movie Ted?
Yes.
So a 50-year-old looking guy smoking mind rape.
Yes.
Yeah. I can't. You're getting that at a state fair. Why are you shocked?
I mean, I went early, so I'm thinking like, okay, the grumpy people will come up later where like the riffraff comes up, man, where it's just, it's like little kids up there early in the morning, and it's just like, the grumpy old people, they were up early and they were out and they were just in their feelings.
It's a state fair, Chris. What are you expecting?
I know, man, but I'm expecting. I mean, at least at the Alachua County Fair, there'd be some nice people out there. But geez, these guys are horrible.
Well, don't go next year.
I won't, man. That was it.
Let's talk some sports. UFC 247 last night.
Yeah.
Didn't disappoint me. I would give it a B- overall for the whole card.
Right.
And I said the last couple weeks, Dominic Reyes is not a joke. Yeah. I know that John Jones is 25-1 or 24-1, and he's the GOAT. He's the greatest of all time. You might put St. Pierre up there. I don't know. But I told you this kid was not a joke, and he came out absolutely on fire. John Jones goes 5 rounds with this guy. This guy had not gone 4 or 5 rounds in his whole career out of his 12 fights. He was 12-0, Dominic Reyes. Both of them go with the 5 rounds. John Jones gets the unanimous decision on the card and gets the win. Here's what I don't know. I had a problem with some of the scoring on it myself. Did you happen to see the fight?
Yeah, man, I actually saw the fight, and I was a little confused by looking by the score, but when it went to unanimous decision, I was a little confused with that.
So it was 48-47, 48-47, and then Sal Salinas, one of the judges, had it 49-46, John Jones. I mean, what in God's green earth was he watching? 49-46.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing when I saw that. I mean, if you've seen the fight last night, they were actually going, round for round, and even in the beginning, like when John Jones was actually trying to do those kicks, he actually picked up on that and actually started kicking to actually block some of those kicks that John Jones actually uses to actually break down his opponents.
Yeah, I thought both of these guys took what the other guy gave, and it was a lot, especially in the first 3 rounds. There was a lot of action. Dominic Reyes tried to take down John Jones a couple times unsuccessfully. Jones got him down just quickly twice throughout the whole fight, but these guys were walking out. I mean, there were points in it where it was like 30 and 40 seconds of just rock 'em, sock 'em robots.
Yeah.
Nobody was backing down. Both guys have an iron chin. Dominic Reyes absolutely showed up. Couple quotes afterwards. Reyes said, I feel disrespected. I don't know if I would go that far. He also said, I brought the fight to him. Now, I saw that 4th and 5th round, and sometimes I wear glasses, but I didn't wear glasses all night last night.
Right.
John Jones was moving forward in that whole fight. bringing it to Dominic Reyes the whole time. So I don't know what that quote was about, that I brought the fight to him. In other words, I'm going to take it as Dominic Reyes said, look, I didn't get overwhelmed that he was the champion and that he's the greatest of all time, because I came in and I gave him my best shot. They both had great shots. They both, had roundhouse kicks, elbows from John Jones. There was a lot of good action. I don't think there was a weak point in the whole fight. But I don't think that Dominic Reyes took the fight to him in the sense that he dominated that fight. I thought it was very equally matched. But I'm going to take and sit in the position where I say, if you're in a contending fight, if there's a title on the line, you got to take the fight from the champion. The 4th and 5th round, you got to admit, Dominic Reyes was backing up that bus the last 2 rounds, and John Jones was moving forward. Definitely the aggressor, definitely won those last 2 rounds. And I could have seen where the 1st or 2nd round, John Jones, you give him that round, and there's your 3-2 right there.
Well, I take a different stance, especially in those first couple of rounds, because if you look at possibly even in the 2nd and 3rd round, when you look at those fights, look at the fight, he actually had John Jones actually retreating a few times in those rounds.
Right, some of it, but that 4th round and that 5th round, Dominic Reyes was in reverse. He was gassed. His energy was low. He wasn't landing significant strikes, and John Jones was just moving forward like a robot. He was just on a mission and moving forward, and he was showing you in those championship rounds why he's the champ. I had John Jones winning it 3-2. I thought it was a very competitive fight. I don't think Dominic Reyes has anything to hang his head about, but I think that John Jones overall edged it out, because when I watch those fights, especially in a title fight, you got to show me that you took it from the champion. And when you take the last 2 rounds off and you're gassed, you're less aggressive, your strikes per round go down, you can't win, especially on a close fight.
Yeah, it was a close fight, and I definitely would like to see a rematch in that fight, simply because when I looked at the fight, he actually did take the fight to John Jones in those first, to me, in the first 3 rounds. He actually took the fight to him. So, I'm definitely looking forward for a rematch. And, if John Jones comes in there ill-prepared, he's probably looking at a loss next time.
Well, I don't think it's ever going to be a question when we're talking about John Jones of whether he's going to be ill-prepared or not. I do think that the age is getting up there. But I think he's in such incredible shape, and he holds himself to such a high standard, even if he does lose, that it's not going to be because he wasn't ready or he wasn't in shape or he didn't take his opponent seriously. Last night, you're right, in the first couple rounds, I thought Reyes came out like a fireball, and John Jones said, look, I sat back and wanted to see what he had for me, and he showed him. The whole fight, Reyes had 116 significant strikes to Jones' 104. So he definitely brought the fight to him in that sense.
Exactly.
He didn't run away from him. I just think in the 4th and 5th round, Reyes got gassed. His energy level was low. His significant strikes went down, and he was backing up. And when you take the last 2 rounds off, can't do it, man.
Yeah, but you got to think, you can't think, too, this was this guy's first time going to that extent of those rounds, of 4th and 5th round. So I think, as he gets more experience and, he's able to, get his endurance up in those 4th and 5th rounds, the next time you may be looking at a different result.
After the fight last night, the post-fight press conference, Dana White said, Dominic Reyes is the future of the light heavyweight division. I think he's right. He's got a chin. He can knock the tar out of you. And if he just gets that cardio going, I don't even think that he just ran out of motivation. I just think that he ran out of steam, because he fought like he had the heart of a champion last night. Anybody that paid the $60 for it, I don't think they can complain about anything. Let's talk about what's next for both these fighters. John Jones, he's beaten Anthony Smith, I thought fairly convincingly, took out Gustafsson twice. Now he's beat Reyes. I don't know who is out there in the light heavyweight division. Yesterday in the presser after the fight, Dana White was being asked about him moving up to heavyweight. I really can't see that happening. He's at 204 yesterday for a 205 light heavyweight maximum.
Right.
And then you look at 205 and who's there. There's Ryan Bader, who hasn't, he had a victory November 2nd of last year. But, he's more on the Bellator level as far as I'm concerned. And I really don't know what I'm getting with Ryan Bader. We could see a rematch between him and Thiago Santos, which was a very close fight. And a lot of people thought that Santos may have actually won that fight. So a rematch there might be intriguing. Corey Anderson just comes off a win against Johnny Walker that he was very impressed with, but he's ranked 6th right now, 5th or 6th in the UFC. Do you give him a shot at John Jones?
No, I mean, even though he did come off of a good win, I mean, you have to earn the fact to be the champ. You have to earn the shot at the champ.
So who do you got John Jones up against next?
I don't know. That's a good question.
You can't just go right to a rematch as much as I'd like to see with Reyes.
Right.
Maybe John Jones goes against Corey Anderson, and then Reyes takes on somebody else, some less, lower level opponent, maybe even Ryan Bader, I don't know, or Thiago Santos. And then, assuming they both win again, then they come back for a rematch at the end of the year, because I would be all in to see something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I would too. I mean, I'm ready for that rematch. I mean, it's something that it was a good fight. It was, it was interesting, and the fact that he was, John Jones was actually trying to do a lot of takedowns, and the guy was actually able to block and actually put up a good fight was just something that I'm really interested in seeing again.
Yeah, nobody walked away from this, even though at the end of the fight both men raised their hands, and reasonably so, because it could have gone either way. When it went to the scorecard, I didn't know. It's not like anybody was sitting back going, oh, yeah, this was a walkaway, except for the judge that had it 49-46. I mean, you want to talk about lobotomy successful. I don't even know where to put that one. So champions show up in championship moments. Right. That's what I think that John Jones did last night. I think this is one of the capping moments, even though I think it was a great fight. It's not like an Ali Frazier type fight. It was a good card. Shevchenko yesterday won me a bunch of money. I think she's a killer at 125. Right. I was not really entertained with that fight. Some of the undercard fights I thought were more exciting, but I know what I'm getting with her. There's nobody in that weight class that can touch her. Talking about John Jones, I think that this is kind of a cap on his career, even though it's not over. We're probably going to see him 5 or 6 more times. He started at age 23. Yeah. In 2011, he beat up Mauricio Rua, and he became the youngest UFC champion ever at 23. That's pretty impressive, because he had started cage fighting, mixed martial arts fighting, at 21 years old. Listen to the accomplishments, just the ones I found quickly today on John Jones. Most title defenses, most consecutive victories, longest winning streak, most wins by submission. April of 2012 at age 21, TKO's Brad Bernard, 92 seconds into the fight for his first fight, UFC fight, 92 seconds in TKO against a guy that had been fighting for a while. Pretty impressive. First UFC fighter to land a worldwide sponsorship with Nike. First guy. Beat Daniel Cormier twice. Most people would say Daniel Cormier is fighting in the heavyweight division, and he's coming off a loss against Stipe from Cleveland, the current heavyweight champion. Daniel Cormier is widely thought about as one of the best heavyweights ever. John Jones beat him twice. Now, one of those got disqualified because of a bad PED test after the fight, but he still beat him twice in my book. Plus, he holds 3 amateur wrestling championships. Yeah. And his brother plays in the NFL.
Yeah, he actually trains with his brother.
So forget about the fact that his brother's in the NFL. I think that John Jones has got to be one of the top 2 or 3 best UFC fighters of all time.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think. I mean, he has 14 title defenses. I mean, that's unprecedented.
It is. And I don't see him slowing down. I know that the Santos fight was close. I know the fight last night was close. But if I'm gauging last night's fight on a 100-point system, I'm going 54-46 for John Jones. It was close. Both guys had good shots. It was entertaining. I loved it. It was built up to be everything that it was supposed to be. There was no disappointment. But John Jones, in my opinion, edged that fight out.
Yeah, I mean, he edged it out. Again, it comes down to the 4th and 5th rounds. And again, I think that Reyes, he gave it his best shots in the first 3 rounds. And those 4th and 5th rounds, again, he got gassed because, this is something he wasn't used to. But I think as he continues to fight and, as he gets that experience, I think he will be ready to go those next times.
Yeah, he's definitely got the drive. You saw in the press conference after the fight, he was disappointed. I don't think he got ripped off. I think he is one of the young stars, as Dana White pointed out. He's the future of the light heavyweight division. I think for the next 6 months or so, John Jones will still have something to say about that, but that was a great fight. And now we can look forward to Wilder and Tyson Fury. So in boxing, MMA is going to have, I think there's going to be probably 7 or 8 other great fights coming up this year. Let's go to college hoops. Duke goes on the road to North Carolina, squeaks out an overtime victory win. Chris, you had to have seen this game yesterday. It was awesome.
Yeah.
North Carolina, for being ranked 13th in the ACC. They showed up. This is the amazing stat. In the last 100 games between these two teams, each team has won 50 games.
Exactly.
What's even more incredible than that statistic is that both of these teams in the last 100 games have scored exactly 7,746 points against each other.
Yeah.
And after last night, Duke is now up 2 points. So you think about playing somebody 100 times. It would be a freak thing if you had 50 wins and 50 wins for each squad. Right. But for them to score against their opponents exactly 7,746 points, that tells you this is an in-state rivalry. It's a conference rivalry. They don't like each other. They're very equally matched over the past 30, 40, 50 years.
Yeah, exactly.
And last night lived up to the billing of this. Most of the game, North Carolina was in cruise control. And at the end of the game, it seems like they just lost focus. They had too many people that were in foul trouble. The last, what was it? Duke came from 13 points down in the last 4.5 minutes to come back and tie the game.
Yeah, I'm looking at that game, and if I'm Roy Williams, my North Carolina team, all you doing when you get back into practice is you guys are shooting free throws. If they would have made their free throws in that game, they would have blew Duke away. This is a crazy stat. Going into the fourth quarter, North Carolina was 16 of 31 from the free throw line.
That's crazy.
16 of 31.
That's like 51.5%.
Exactly.
From the free. The word free is right there. Free throw, unobstructed.
Exactly.
You can't do that. It just shows where North Carolina is at this year, doesn't it?
Yes,
I don't think it's an indictment on Roy Williams because he's a great coach and has shown that at multiple colleges over multiple decades. I don't know how the wheels have come off at North Carolina so bad, but I can tell you one thing. Trey Jones took that game over with about 3 minutes left to go. He hits a 12-footer with no time left on the clock to send it into overtime, which was amazing because he was at the free throw line with about 6 seconds left to go. They're down by 2. He hits the first one. They're down by 1. He throws it off the rim, gets his own rebound, fights through a double team to hit a 12-foot shot that hit absolutely nothing but nylon.
Yeah, I mean, what it boils down to is Duke and North Carolina gets the best of the best every year. And just in every game, what it boils down to is who has the best superstar on the floor. And in this game, it appeared that Duke had the best star on the floor. I mean, that's what it boils down to. Every single game. Who has the best player on the floor? And Duke had it last night.
Yeah, Trey Jones showed me something. I mean, we knew Trey Jones had skills. We knew that he was going to be coming out in the draft, the NBA draft, which we're going to talk about a little bit more later in the show. But last night, the light shined so bright on him at exactly the right time. He stood up, put his team on his back, especially in overtime. I know you could say that the big man, the center for North Carolina, fouled out about a minute into the overtime session, and they didn't have anybody to protect the rim, but he just went after the rim the last 3.5 minutes in the regular part of the game.
Right.
And in overtime, he took it over. There was one star on that court the last 8 minutes, 5 minutes overtime, and 3 minutes of regulation, and it was Trey Jones.
Yes, I mean, basically that's showing the Mamba mentality. Once you see you have an advantage, and you see the big man is in foul trouble. I mean, as a coach, I'm telling my players, if you know the big man is in foul trouble, you take it to the hole every time.
But Anthony couldn't cover him. I mean, he was blowing past Anthony like Anthony was drilled to and bolted to the center of the earth.
I mean, yes, but you have to understand too. Cole Anthony is coming off a knee injury too, so there is some trepidation with a lot of lateral movements, and so that. Yeah, even though he was kind of bolted to the earth, that was the situation with that, is that, you know, he's not unsure of his need, and it's still he's trying to protect his draft stock as well.
I don't know. You got to throw the draft stock out. That stuff in this game. I mean, this is about pride. This is about school. This is about honor. This is about personal responsibility to your brothers that are out there playing with you. And if you're not 100%, step over and let the next man come up. But I think at North Carolina, there is no next man up. Anthony's kind of it.
Right, there's no next man up, but if you're at North Carolina, you're going to play that game. Even if you have to go out there on
crutches,
one leg, crutch, a wheelchair,
morphine.
Exactly, we're playing in that game. So even though I don't think Cole Anthony is 100%, healed from his injury, he was going to play in that game and he was going to give it 100%. And defensively, it comes with a lot of lateral movement. And if you have a guy that's going to force the issue, it's nothing that you really can do about that.
The sad story continues this year for North Carolina, who drops to 10-13. Again, their 13th best team in the ACC. Yeah. Not in the country, in their conference. They're the 13th best team. Now that they've got a losing record, I don't know how you right the ship, but Duke has everything out in front of them. I think they're going to be a number 1 seed. Talking about coming kind of out of nowhere, how about the Atlantic 10? We don't go too far off the beaten path here, but sometimes I think we need to. I was looking at the Atlantic 10. Name me 5. So the Atlantic 10 has 10 teams right now with at least 16 wins.
Right.
Just think about that. I don't know another conference that's got that. I was talking about how I was making money this week. Mm-hmm. I had Rhode Island this week. They covered for me. I had VCU at home against Davidson. They covered for me. How about Duquesne, Dukes?
Right.
They've got 16 wins on the season. The Bonnies got 16 wins. Rhode Island, Richmond Spiders, St. Louis. St. Louis covered on a 16.5-point spread yesterday. They lost the game. But again, more than 15 wins on the season. So you look at it, Dayton's right up there. They're ranked in the top 10. The Atlantic 10 is not a joke this year.
And again, these are these small schools that get into the tournament every year that, everybody kind of sleeps on, and then they go on a VCU run to get to like the Elite 8 or the Final Four. So, these teams have, previously been good in regular seasons. These big teams in the other conferences, you just got to watch out for them when you get into the tournament because they are coming out to play.
I bet you I could have fooled you if it was Wednesday night trivia and I had named off those 7 teams that I just named off and said, tell me which one of them has 16 wins. Because they all have 16 wins. And
right.
Who would have thought that?
No, nobody.
I wouldn't have known about that. I just think it was a shock and a surprise. What's the biggest surprise in college basketball this year, Chris?
The biggest surprise in college basketball is I wouldn't have never seen so many teams like Baylor on the men's side is number 1, and even Oregon. You have the Blue Bloods like the Connecticut for women, the Baylor for women. But you have Baylor for the guys. I haven't. Baylor is number 1. You always think of the Dukes, the North Carolinas,
right.
the Louisvilles.
Right.
You think of those Blue Bloods, the Virginias. But that's the big difference to me. This season is the parity in college basketball.
I think the biggest shock for me has got to be, and we've had this discussion a little bit already a couple weeks ago.
Right.
It's got to be San Diego State at 24-0. They get a win against mighty Air Force, who I'm not even sure has a winning record. Because half the teams in the Mountain West Conference that San Diego State plays in don't even have a winning record.
Yeah.
San Diego State is ranked number 4 right now at 24-0. Mm-hmm. They still have New Mexico at home, at Boise State. Those are going to be 2 what I would classify at their skill set, tough games. They get UNLV, Colorado State, and then they go to Nevada. Then they'll have the Mountain West Conference in Las Vegas. So they've got 8 games, considering they win all their games in the Mountain West Conference, 8 possible games left. I'm saying they don't enter the NCAA tournament undefeated.
Looking at their record so far, and I'm just looking at the teams they have to play, I'm not necessarily impressed with those other teams. I think they can enter the tournament undefeated.
Here's the question we were talking about before the show. They're 24-0 now, and they're ranked 4th in the country. So there's 2 questions I have for you.
Right.
One, we have a side wager on. First of all, it's conditional on them entering the tournament, the NCAA tournament, undefeated. Will they be a number 1 seed? You think they will?
Yeah.
Oh, you put money on it.
Yeah.
Don't crawdaddy out of this one.
Yeah, I mean, it just because I feel like the NCAA is the fallen victim of everybody else and just giving teams participation points.
Yeah, everybody can't win a trophy. Am I wrong? I mean, come on. You can't. They cannot. Look, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4. They've got 5 games left. They go 29-0, and they're a number 1 seed. So what I've got to ask myself is, are they better than teams that are in? Would they beat Baylor? Could they beat Kansas? Could they beat Duke? Could they beat Virginia? Could they beat Louisville? Could they beat Florida State? I don't think so. Could they beat Villanova? No. These are all tough teams. Look, take San Diego State and put them in the ACC, and how many wins do they have? How many losses do they have? 2 or 3. They're not even ranked in the top 15. They're not. You could say the same thing if you put them in the SEC. They got to face Florida, who's okay. They got to face Kentucky. Yeah. They've got to face a Georgia team that's getting better. Right. Put them in the Big Ten. You've got the Badgers.
Yeah, Ohio State.
You've got Ohio State. You've got Michigan. You got Michigan State. You've got Illini aren't a joke. You got Maryland, who's good.
Right.
Look, let's just talk about their schedule.
Okay.
All right, San Diego State. You say that they're one of they should get a number 1 seed if they're, and I say they don't deserve it. They play Texas Southern. That's a joke. Grand Canyon, San Diego University, somebody named LIU, Tennessee State, Colorado State, who's terrible and can't find their way onto the basketball court, let alone function while they're on it, San Jose State, San Diego Christian College. What in God's green earth is that? Cal Poly, Wyoming, who might be one of the worst teams in all of college basketball. They get to play them twice. Nevada, not very good. UNLV, also not very good. Air Force, and then Colorado State again and Nevada. That's their schedule. That's disgusting, dude. That's ridiculous. It's stupid. It should not be rewarded. And here's the bottom line. If you're a number 1 seed, what you're telling me is you're one of the best 4 teams in the country. There's no way that San Diego State, even if they go undefeated, is better than the other teams that we were mentioning. Kansas, Baylor, Louisville, Duke, Florida State, Michigan State, Michigan. They'll get bombed if they're in any of those conferences. They're not undefeated. Therefore, they would not be number 4. Therefore, they should not be a number 1 seed.
But again, Ron, like I told you, when we were actually discussing this earlier, I mean, it's tough to go undefeated. Whether they're playing, I don't know, some JV team out of some unknown conference or whatnot. It's
San Diego Christian College,
whoever they are,
Tennessee State, Cal Poly. Come on, Chris.
But this is
you
really,
got to reward a tough schedule.
But this again, what it boils down to is even though they played these sorry teams or whatnot, the concentration, the ability to still stay focused and go undefeated. That's something tough to do. I mean, no matter how bad the teams are, it is something that's tough to do. And again, like we discussed earlier, if they lose, everything's
fall like a rock.
Exactly, it's going to correct.
They're going to fall like a rock. Right. They'll be out of the top 10 in a half a second.
Exactly. So it's going to correct itself. So
but I don't think that you reward it. That's my point. You can't reward a soft patsy butt schedule by putting somebody as a number 1 seed. That just doesn't work. You don't reward apathy. Would you at least agree with that? You can't reward a soft schedule like that.
You can't reward a soft schedule, but Ryan, you have to.
It doesn't take away the fact they're undefeated.
But you have
full credit to them.
You have to look at the teams that are behind them. I mean, those teams have lost 2 or 3 games already.
But look at the
But I understand.
They've lost those games because they're playing in a conference that actually has validity.
I understand that, but it's still you still have to reward that team for going undefeated.
I do. I put them right now. If I'm ranking them nationally, they're a 2nd or 3rd seed, and I've got them ranked somewhere between 8 and 13. That's where I put them, probably closer to like 11, 12, 13. They're not the top 4 team in the country. They're just not.
I mean,
they've played 2 teams of any legitimacy in Creighton and Iowa, who aren't blowing the doors off anybody. They're top 25 teams. But that's it. You can't schedule Texas Southern, Cal Poly, and some directional school full of blind kids, and then tell me how you're ranked. You're a number 1 seed.
But Ron, again, when it comes down to ranking those teams, I mean, you think about it. And so if you have a Duke, a North Carolina, you have all of these top-ranked blue-blooded teams,
right? That play other blue-blooded
Wait
teams.
a minute.
Right?
Each year, they play these non-divisional teams. These teams that are lower level, like the San Diego States.
Right.
They're only going to put so many of those San Diego States on their schedule.
You're right, but that is not my problem. Get a tougher schedule.
It's not your problem. But,
get a tougher schedule.
But this is the thing, though, Ryan. If they're trying to go to these other conferences to schedule these games, and these other teams are like, well, we already have XYZ on there. They can only schedule who they can schedule.
I know,
it's
but
not
then I can only
necessarily their
reward
fault.
you as your schedule determines. That's how that works. If you have a soft schedule and it's not your fault, that's fine. You don't deserve to be a number 1 seed, and that's not my fault.
But
you got to go out and beat somebody to be somebody.
But I mean, saying okay, Ron. So like a few years ago, before Gonzaga is the Gonzaga that we know right now,
right?
And so like say Gonzaga. The Gonzaga that's the Gonzaga now was putting on the same show that San Diego State was. Would you? I mean, they were playing like St. Mary. St. Mary was a pretty decent school,
right? But they've been doing it for years. That's the difference. And when they get in the tournament, they go deep in the tournament. When San Diego State gets in the tournament, they're out by the round of 36. I mean, the round of 34.
I mean, but
that's the difference.
But again, it remains to be seen.
Well, I think they're having a great year, and I'm not downing them. I'm not. I just don't want to give every single kid on the baseball team a trophy. I mean, I just don't work that way. Speaking of getting trophies, how about Kentucky going on the road for the first time in 5 years and getting a win at Tennessee? And again, it just seems to be like a theme today that, how the mighty have fallen. Tennessee 2 years ago was 31-6. 15-3 in the SEC, and made it to the Sweet 16 when they lost to Purdue, which was a shocking loss because that team was like nitro fire, and they had a really awesome team. Tennessee right now I think they've just fallen off the map. Nationally, not even just in the SEC, which isn't even one of the toughest conferences. And speaking of falling off the map, I hate to say this about my own team. I don't know what has gone on. Preseason, ESPN, Myron Metcalf, senior college basketball writer, and ESPN college hoops insider Jeff Borzello both picked Florida in their Final Four preseason. They said Florida was going to be in the Final Four, and Florida's ranked in the top 15 preseason nationally. Florida right now is 14-9. They've lost 4 out of their last 6. They haven't even played Kentucky twice yet. So they get Kentucky at Rupp and at Exact Tech in Gainesville over the next 2.5 weeks. Plus they get LSU, who's going to come calling in the next week and a half. They got to go to Texas A&M and Georgia. Neither of those are patsies anymore. They're decent teams and possible losses. The only quality wins that Florida has right now is a 70-65 win in November over Xavier, who was ranked at the time, and they beat Auburn pretty significantly, 69-47 at Gainesville when Auburn was ranked 4th. You have 2 quality wins. You've got a sketchy-looking 9 losses. 4 out of the last 6 games, they're losses. I don't know how deep they can go in the tournament this year if they make it. I'm looking at where they were at 2 and 3 and 4 years ago, and I'm wondering what the direction is. Like, where's the path to victory and glory for Florida?
Well, when those guys, when they predicted Florida will go to the Final Four in the tournament, you're looking at the talent that Florida has. Florida has a lot of talent on that team. I think when it comes down to Florida, if you watch those games very closely, it comes down to late in those games, they're not executing. I mean, there's missed passes. There's times when Florida needs to go inside the basket.
Is this a Mike White issue?
They're shooting threes. To me, there is an issue with Mike White there because simply when it comes down to playing the game of basketball, you have to know where you have the advantage. You have Blackshear, who's a big man. Get him in the post, have him post up. Blackshear, you should not be nowhere near the 3-point line. I can see you shooting anywhere from the 15 to 18-foot jump shot inside the arc and, taking advantage that way. But they have the talent there. Florida has the talent. I mean,
it's got to come down on head coach Mike White.
Exactly. That's the issue.
All right. He's 4 years at the University of Florida, and in his first year, 9-9 in the SEC. NIT made it to the quarterfinals. Unacceptable.
Right.
NIT, unacceptable quarterfinals. The next year, Elite Eight. The last 2 seasons, they're out in the round of 32. Overall, he's 49-33 in the SEC.
Well, I mean,
You're out in the round of 32 the last 2 years. He's on a 6-year contract that averages out to $2.7 million a year. At $2.7 million a year, the facilities are top of the line. You should be able to recruit. When Billy left, it wasn't like the cupboard was bare. You had a tradition and a foundation built. He should have stepped in and been able to keep that going. They're not even ranked right now. I don't know the path to glory for this, and I'm going to put it on the head coach, Mike White. He's got 2 years left on this deal. What's the expectation? What am I hoping for this year? What's the best case scenario? They win the SEC tournament, they get in, and somehow they're going how far? The round of 32 again, maybe, and if they get lucky, they go to the Sweet 16, which I can't even see that happening.
Well, I mean, Florida definitely, they need to have some type of team meeting or something and come together to get their focus, because when I look at this Florida team, you know, you have point guards who sits out on the outside, watches the other person dribble. You have a big man sitting out there shooting jump shots instead of getting into the post. You have energy players that they're not putting in the game to grab rebounds. I mean, there's so many different things that I'm seeing that Mike White could do to actually change up this lineup, to actually give Florida a burst of energy, to actually, you know, get out here and win some of these games. I mean, just go back to the Alabama game where Alabama was bombing threes outside. What are you doing?
Where's the adjustment?
Where's the adjustment? My point exactly.
Yeah.
So, you know, when it comes down to that, Mike White, you have to do a better job of adjusting and actually getting working to your players' advantage.
Yeah, you absolutely have to make an adjustment, especially when you're making $2.7 million a year. I'll tell you one thing, Chris, you don't need to make $2.7 million a year to have good car insurance. Get a hold of Geico today. 15 minutes could save you 15% on car insurance. Get a hold of Geico at geico.com and see how much you can save. How's that for a segue? Right? Slid that one right on in there.
I see that.
Last weekend, we went over 500 subscribers, which is awesome. We thank everybody out there joining us here, Chris and I, live on YouTube twice a week on Sundays and Wednesdays in the St. Jude studios, talking about everything going on in the world of sports. You can follow us on Twitter at @TheFirstRound1, or you can get a hold of us here on live chat while we're doing the show, or you can email in questions and comments to the show, thefirstroundrd@gmail.com. We welcome those. We had some good questions on the show last Super Bowl Sunday.
Okay.
Talking about the top 2 players that are coming out in the NBA draft, shifting from college football over to the NBA. The top 2 players coming out in the NBA draft. NBA draft. I've got 2 of the players up that I think are standouts that maybe aren't the top 5 guys that are out there right now being talked about as far as the publicity. Yeah. But I think that what they're saying on the court is saying volumes about what they are. And my first guy is Obi Toppin from Dayton. Really? 6'9", 225, shoots 40% from three-point line. He's got good feet, knows how to use his body. He's a rebound monster. And I think he's super undervalued right now. Mm-hmm. Again, he's playing in the Atlantic 10, and he's a big man who can step it outside. He's got good foot movement. He can work it down low into the box. I think he's going to be scheduled as like a 4 in the NBA. I think his upside is huge. Plus, what I really like, he's high energy, and some players you could just tell they're playing for personal pride.
Right.
Is it just me? You could watch some guys playing, and they're just going through the motions, or they're playing because of their personal, they're building their own brand.
Right.
And then there's players that play just because they want to be awesome. Mm-hmm. It's that personal drive inside that you want to be the best that you can be without comparing yourself to other people. That's what I see in this guy right here.
Oh, this is great. I mean, I'm going to surprise a lot of people with one of my best, one of my top prospects is coming out. I mean, everybody hates his dad. Everybody just kind of starting to like his brother a little bit more than he's with New Orleans now, throwing alley-oops to Zion. But I'm looking at baby boy LaMelo Ball playing overseas in Australia. No.
I'm listening.
I'm looking at LaMelo simply because, for once, you have a ball that's going his own path, doing it his own way. Basically, when he decided to go to Australia to play basketball, that was against Daddy's wishes. Daddy wanted him to go to some European team that he could have control over. And I mean, playing on that team with former NBA players, they've actually come to say this kid has it. Not only does he have it mentally, but he has it on the basketball court. And I mean, granted, when he was younger, he had some maturity issues. And that's a lot of that has to do with being under Daddy's wing.
Right, and it's age too. I mean,
right.
The dumbest decisions you and I have talked about 9 million times that we've made in our lives are when we're 15 to 25.
Right, and so the fact that he's going to he went to Australia to play ball. He's playing in a tougher league. He's playing with some of former NBA players, and the fact that his daddy isn't able to fly down to Australia and have control over his son,
hassle him,
is great. And I think that is what's going to actually, put him up, to be one of the top players in the upcoming draft.
Oh, that was a low-lying piece of fruit. Everybody talks about LaMelo. I'm not sold on him. I look at him like I look at his brother, and I look at Markelle Fultz.
Fultz is having a comeback year, kid.
Okay, but to come back needs to mean that you were awesome at some point, which I've never seen. And the first 2 years in the league, he was and you got to admit that. He's a bust-ola.
He had a bum shoulder, man. He could
bum shoulder. He said he forgot how to shoot.
He had a bum shoulder. He couldn't lift his shoulder up.
He's a brick. House.
Fultz has actually had a decent season.
Number one overall pick, bust-ola. That's all there is to say about that guy. My second guy is Trey Jones. I mean, he won me over last night. You could talk about the fact he only averages 16 points a game, 7 assists a game. He might be a little bit short. He's a late 17 to 20 overall pick. I'm not hearing any of that. What I'm seeing is I'm kind of seeing the intelligence and how to run the court. I see him as like an upgraded Rajon Rondo, and look how long he's stayed around. I mean, I know Rajon Rondo has had a cup of coffee with 15 teams in the past 5 years, but if I'm going to compare him to somebody, I think he has the smarts of Rajon Rondo, and I think he's a better shot. I would like to see him. I think he is undersized, and that's one of the critiques that's out there. But you can't instill intelligence. And he's just a smart player. And when I saw him take over last night, I mean, it blew me away. This is one of the kids that I'm going to watch. You know what he reminds me of? A shorter Jason Tatum.
Really?
Yeah. I think he's got the shot. I think you're not going to have problems in the locker room with him or off the court. I don't think you're going to have the contractual problems. He's just a solid kid. He's smart. He's a floor leader, and he can shoot. And, that right there, that to me is a full package.
Yeah, it's a full package. Well, I'm going to go with the kid on the opposite side that got torched last night. I'll go with Cole Anthony. Cole Anthony is the heart and soul of that North Carolina team. The kid went out with a bad knee injury earlier in the season. And, I mean, the fact that he had surgery, came back in the same season, and he's trying to lift his team up. I mean, even though I don't know what to say with the whole coaching situation with Roy Jones, Roy Williams. I'm sorry, Roy Jones.
Freak year, man.
Roy Williams. I mean,
it's just a freak year.
It really is. But I think that Cole Anthony has tremendous upside, and I think he's going to be one of the better young superstars in the league.
He might be. I'm not that optimistic, but he definitely does have talent. He's just stuck on a bad team right now. Chris and I have a new segment here on the first round, and we're calling it Who is the Next? It could be anybody in the world of sports, announcers, coaches, managers, players. So I'm going to throw 3 people to you, and you tell me, Mike or Chris, who is the next Mike Krzyzewski? Mike Krzyzewski, 5-time national champion. He's been coaching at Duke, 1980 till the present, 3-time coach of the year. He's got over 1,000 wins. His 11-time ACC champion, one of the best generational coaches over the past 30 years. His winning percentage is over 750 in the past 30 years. Who is the next Mike Krzyzewski, Chris?
Oh, gosh. That's a tough one. I mean, Jeez, that's a legend.
Yeah.
Oh man. Gosh, I'm trying to think of a young coach that's there. I mean, the only person that I can see if he was to come back to college would be Brad Stevens. I mean, that's the only person I can see if he comes back to college that's that's young enough to match some of those stats.
It's almost undefinable to find somebody, right? Because you
Yeah.
could throw out a bunch of different names. You could throw out Shaka Smart, but he's not at a program where he redefined of ECU, but then at Texas, it's like the wheels have kind of come off. He had that. I thought there was a moment there where he was one of the young and up and coming, and that's why Texas took him. But yeah, to try and feel like who's the next Mike Krzyzewski, it's hard, huh?
It really is. I mean, and the thing with Shaka Smart is you're going to the Big 12, so not only are you having to compete against Kansas, but now you're having to compete against other teams like West Virginia.
What about Bill Self? Could be a candidate for the next.
Mike?
I know those are huge. I think throw you a softball.
I would say Calipari over Bill Self. I mean,
Good one, yeah.
You don't have the issues that you've had with Bill Self over the last few years, and even so, I mean, you got to think of
Calipari at Memphis with the whole Derrick Rose thing, and yeah, he's had. I mean, everybody's got stuff. But what? Calipari's a good answer.
But yeah, I mean, but I mean, but really, when you think about it, I mean, he had that one issue at Memphis, but he kind of cleaned that up. I mean, you got to think of Kentucky. Kentucky has. They have, basically one and done the whole time.
Yeah,
so,
you're right.
So Calipari will be a good one.
Okay, I'll take that as your answer.
All right, so Ron, who would you consider would be the next Larry Bird?
Oh, I was going to give you Larry Bird. I was going to give you Larry Bird, but Larry Bird is going back, 20 years to get to Larry Bird's prime, even 25 years.
Yeah.
Wow, who's the next Larry Bird? So who's the next great passer? Who's the next intelligent forward at 6'9"? Who is the next great outside shooter? Who is the next player in the NBA that elevates everybody around him? Because you got to think, Robert Parrish was nothing before he got to the Celtics. Same with Kevin McHale. DJ was just a mild, good defensive player. Ainge was nothing. I mean, look at all the players that he took and took them to the next level.
Right.
Wow, who is the next Larry Bird? Wow, man, you got to give me a second on that one. The next Larry Bird. Well, if he stays around and he's healthy, how about Klay Thompson and how about Kawhi Leonard?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I see.
Bird was a 3-time MVP, multiple NBA championships, 3 NBA championships, Rookie of the Year in '79 when he came out. Greatest one-season turnaround at that point in the NBA, the Boston Celtics, his rookie year. I would say that I'd put Kawhi Leonard up there or Klay, because Klay's got the great outside shot. He's also a very intelligent player. Right. He's played on champions before. He's still got a lot of future ahead of him. Yeah. I just think Golden State doesn't need to rush him bringing him back, and he's a great passer.
Yeah.
So I'd say Klay Thompson or Kawhi Leonard right now. All right. Now, I'm going to preface this a little bit on your next one. Who is the next Serena Williams? 14-time Grand Slam champion in doubles with her sister Venus. 23 overall Grand Slams, which is more than any other woman or man who's played tennis. But when I say who's the next Serena Williams, I'm not just confining it to the court. Who's the next female athlete to raise awareness for what women do in sports the way Serena has? Chris.
Oh, I'm gonna go with the youngin. I mean, I like the way she carries herself. She carries herself professional. She is as honest and as open as you can be. She's gracious as a winner, and some of the wins that she's compiled over, just her short career and in tennis, Coco Gauff.
Coco, you got to tell me who it is. I can't guess.
Yeah, no, I'm going to
Coco. Yeah,
okay. Coco Gauff. I mean,
that's some big shoes to fill, though.
Yeah, some big shoes to fill.
Global.
But you have to look at this. Look at her win, her last few wins. Now, I mean, she's beaten one of her idols, Venus Williams, even though Venus is at the the latter stages of her career. But not only has she done that, but she's also beat Naomi Osaka, which is a very big win for her, being that Naomi Osaka beat her in, a previous tournament, and the fact that she beat her, but she beat her in straight sets. Mm-hmm. And so, you have somebody that's young. She's young. She's in, she has it going, and the fact that she's young enough to actually speak on some of those events, some of those women issues.
Not a bad answer.
Yeah. So Ron, you kind of got me with the sign language over here, man. I'm like, what? Yeah, but
So robotic.
Yeah, you got me with this. Yeah, you come with the sign language. I'm like, yeah, but no. So Ron, so tell me, who will be the next MJ? Michael.
Oh goodness.
Yes.
So it's too easy to say Zion, but Zion's not the same player. I don't think. Zion is going to be a stratospheric rising star for the next 5 years in the NBA at least, and then he'll establish himself. So I've got to look at somebody who's been in the league, who's possibly got some championships. It can't be Steph. Wow. I mean, when you're talking like who's the next greatest player ever,
Yeah.
I don't want to just say LeBron, but right now it would have to be LeBron because nobody else out there that I can see is on that level.
Yeah.
And LeBron's not even on MJ's level, and he's the greatest candidate for this question.
I know.
I got it. It's either got to be Durant or LeBron.
Yeah.
And we don't know what we're getting with Durant when he comes back from his ACL injury or his torn Achilles, whatever it is. We don't know what we're getting. So I've got to go with LeBron James. He's established multiple championships on multiple teams, makes players around him better, takes teams with no talent, like we talked about the Cavaliers teams that Mike Brown had been coaching that had nobody on him. I mean, when your second best player is Ildrulis Zogakis, then and you're still going to the conference finals. So yeah, I would say it's got to be LeBron right now is the next MJ, but I don't think he's going to reach that level.
No, I don't think he.
And I don't think Kobe did either.
Kobe was the closest thing to MJ simply because of that killer mentality. I mean,
is that why he's 24? Because he was one better than MJ.
Well,
see,
yeah,
can't.
Yeah, all right. Good line, Kanye. But yeah, I think Kobe was the closest to Michael that we will get, especially when it comes down to that killer mentality and want
more than LeBron.
Yes.
No.
Yes. I mean, no. Simply because of this, when it came down to it, who wanted to take that last shot? LeBron. Yes, LeBron made the best basketball play.
Yeah,
to dish the ball off. But when it came down to that last shot, Michael wanted that shot.
Yeah.
Kobe wanted that shot.
You're absolutely right. Kobe wanted it. Let me get to my third one for you. Chris, who is the next NBA dynasty to resemble the Golden State Warriors? Let's talk about what they did. 73-win season, multiple national champion or NBA championships in the past 6 years. One of the best teams in the NBA at talent acquisition over the past 10 years. 21 NBA records broke in their 2015-16 season. Think about that. 21 NBA records were broke just in that season. So over the past 5 years, they were the dominant team in the NBA. Who's the next Golden State?
The next Golden State, I'm going to surprise you, Ryan. The next Golden State is going to be Golden State because they just got better.
What?
Wait a minute. Hear me out. Golden State is not good. We know we're not going to the playoffs this year. They're not going there.
They're not even an NBA team this year.
Exactly. But
okay, you got 60 seconds.
Let me hear me out now.
I will, but we got to get it going.
Okay, so you have Steph coming back next year.
Yeah,
that's one. You have Klay coming back at the 2.
Right.
And then on top of that, now you have an Andrew Wiggins who doesn't have to carry the burden of the team.
Right.
He can just be a scorer.
Who's
and
your
then
big man?
You still have Draymond.
4 or 5.
You still have Draymond. And then on top of that, you can rotate your big man out simply because Golden State don't necessarily depend on a big man.
Right. I'm just wondering.
Yeah. So
Bogut's not there. JaVale McGee is gone. You got to have somebody in there to fill. I mean, who's it going to be?
Big man could be anybody. I mean,
I need somebody solid in there. I need a B- guy.
Again, because Golden State doesn't necessarily depend on the big man, they can slide anybody in there. I mean,
that's an interesting. It's not too far fetched. They're just not there yet. They're not. You're talking about them becoming themselves again, which I can see the picture and I can see how you're going to get there. That's just a long road to get there. Who's your last one?
My last one for you. Who's gonna be the next greatest announcer? What's the next great announcer?
Oh gosh, man, I don't know. I mean,
who's gonna be the next Marv Albert?
The next sports announcer is out there. So I think about Joe Buck and his dad Jack Buck. I think of Marv Albert's been out there forever. It's not like there's a recruiting base where you're like, hey, VCU has a kid that's doing play-by-play on their basketball squad, and he's just tearing it up right now.
Right.
I mean, gosh, man, that was like really going outside the limits. That was like one of my trivia questions for you. Who's the next great announcer? God bless, man. I have absolutely no idea. I'll tell you a guy that's a young guy that's been coming up. He started with the San Diego Padres about 10 years ago, and he does MLB on Sunday nights for ESPN, Matt Vasgersian.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think he's a solid guy. He's always well prepared. I don't like some of the other people in the booth that he's with. Alex Rodriguez hasn't been that bad. He brings the player perspective to it. But I'd say Matt Vasgersian is, a definitely more than able guy when it comes to announcing. And Chris, what else is going on? Oh, last story real quick. Have you seen what the Florida Gators did with their scheduling?
No, Ryan. What have they done?
Well, I'm actually excited to talk about this, and it has nothing to do with the fact that I went to school there and graduated with multiple degrees. That landed me up doing this. And my degrees have nothing to do with this. The Florida Gators scheduling news. They scheduled home games with Pac-12 teams.
Really?
Yep. They're going to play 2026. Cal is coming to Gainesville. Then they're going to Cal the next year. They also have home games scheduled with Utah, which I'm excited about.
Right.
They've been great over the last 12 years. They're never a doormat. Arizona State, home with them. Utah starts in 2022. How about Texas? Home with Texas. This is the kind of scheduling I like. I don't want to see the directional schools.
Right.
I want to see LSU going into Austin at the beginning of the year with everything on the line.
Right.
And mano a mano. See who wins. And Colorado. Colorado's an okay team. They're a C to C plus team every year. Hey, you want to see them or you want to see Townsend? That's the end of that argument right there. Arizona State, Utah, Cal, Texas, and Colorado. Chris, what else is going on in the world of sports?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have the Washington Redskins. We might as well say, because it is Black History Month, is trying to actually hire the first black female coach on their team. Her name is Jennifer King. Jennifer King was an intern with the Carolina Panthers last year under Ron Rivera. She actually coached wide receivers in a semi-pro league, and she was also an offensive assistant for Dartmouth University, where they came in second place in the Ivy Leagues in their division. So she's coming in definitely to coach the offense, and I think it's definitely going to be a good addition, and it's definitely a fresh air seeing women come into the to a league that's dominated by men.
Token hire, or is it for real?
I think it's for real. I mean, she came in with this team, and not only were they good, but they were actually in that semi-pro league. They were actually the second ranked team, in their division.
Good stuff. If she's qualified, I say give anybody that's qualified a chance. It doesn't matter anything about them. Any human being that's qualified, if they're qualified, give them a shot. That music can mean only one thing. It's time to thank our support staff. The man on the board, Ray Boom Boom Mancini, my co-host, Chris Roberts, El Presidente Chet 40 for all of us here in the St. Jude Studios in the first round. Thank you for being a part of this show. We will be right back here Wednesday night with an even better show than tonight. Better graphics, better stats, better opinions. Tell your friends. Subscribe to the first round right now. Hit the notification button so every time we have a new show, you will be notified. We'll be right back here live on YouTube Wednesday. Until then, take care, everybody.